I am hoping that today's episode is going to make you feel so seen if you've been wondering or quietly suspecting that you might be self-sabotaging. Maybe you've been toying with the idea because you notice yourself slipping into the same limiting beliefs about yourself, about other people, or about the world. Perhaps you've seen yourself repeating patterns that you swore you were done with, or pulling away from things right when they start to go well, or you struggle to feel good about things, fearing that they're not going to go well. You kind of see yourself slipping back into old familiar feelings or situations that you ultimately you feel done with. You've really got to a place where this isn't who you are anymore. It's not the life you see for yourself. So if you've caught yourself thinking, it could be so many different thoughts, but I guess something like, why do I keep doing this? How am I back here again? Then this episode is absolutely for you. And this is something that is really common. And I say that because I hope that it can reduce the amount that you judge yourself or rush yourself or have high expectations of yourself. We're going to look at what self-sabotage actually is, why you're self-sabotaging. I'm going to share a few ideas and a few theories about why we do it. And then I'm going to give you an exercise to support you to look inwards, to take the information from this episode so that you can actually do something meaningful with it and create change in your life. Because whatever it is that has led to these patterns, whatever it is, your experiences, the way that you think, your anxiety, whatever it is that contributes to this pattern of sabotage, there is something in me without knowing you that just knows you don't deserve it. This isn't who you are. Change is possible. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I'm only providing information on this podcast and, in Instagram and wherever it is that I share, that I really believe will give you the best shot at creating change in your life. If you want change, I want to bring information that will help you to make that happen. Of course, your role is to take the information and to use it. And I think sometimes that's a difficult bit. If you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for being here. I'm Carly Ann. I'm a therapist and I'm a coach, and I've got so many hats on, to be completely honest, a speaker, a podcast host. And really, what I'm passionate about is supporting people to feel happier, to feel less anxious, to feel more content, to get to where it is that you want to be. And usually, the way that I'm helping people to do that is through challenging these kind of behaviors that we're talking about today, building self-worth, learning how to be kinder to yourself, learning how to motivate yourself, learning how to show up as the version of you, the future version of you that you want to be. Right now, I'm offering a 90-minute clarity call. It's designed to help you let go of old patterns, clarify your next steps, and align with your most empowered, secure self. We're going to use my 3R process to unlock your potential. We will bring together your past self, your current self, your future self to recognize, release, and reset. We'll do it in 90 minutes. It's going to be really impactful. And if you want to spend that 90 minutes with me, go ahead and say yes to yourself. Let's think about what self-sabotage actually is. You've probably heard of self-sabotage. It's in the title here, so perhaps that's why you've picked it. The term, I really feel like sometimes people might say to me, I'm self-sabotaging, without truly understanding, what does that really mean? If you're walking around saying you're self-sabotaging, you really need to have a clear kind of understanding of what that is, so that we can change it. In his book, The Mind Monster Solution, Hazel Gale describes self-sabotage as actions, either conscious or unconscious, that create obstacles between you and your long-term goals. Now, look, it doesn't have to just be long-term goals. It could be your intentions right now. It could be small changes that you want to make, daily habits that you want to commit to. But in some way, you see there being some kind of destruction towards that, sabotaging yourself from really making the change that you say that you want. And usually the way you're going to see that is in certain kind of patterns. You'll keep doing the same things or similar things, but you'll be getting pulled off course, drifting away or moving away from what matters to you, edging towards more what you don't want and those old patterns, or staying stuck in the same spot, feeling like you're stuck in the same spot. Calm describes self sabotage as more than procrastinating or avoiding a task. It is the thoughts, reactions, behaviors that continuously interfere with what it is that you want to be doing or your well-being, whether you see that in your work, in your relationships, or in your personal life. And I think that that's probably worth considering now. Where is it that you see yourself sabotaging? What areas of your life? It's really interesting with self-sabotage. It's one of these things where usually people outside of you, or perhaps you can think of a friend that you've seen sabotaging themselves, and you can see it really clearly. But that when you're in it, it's just not so easy to spot. And that's often the case with self-sabotage. The consequences, the behavior, often it's really obvious, but it can be really subtle. You can deny yourself, you can convince yourself that this isn't what you're doing until after the fact. Sometimes there's been some kind of wake up call, and then you can suddenly see clearly. Self sabotage is not you being bad. Let's get really clear on that. This is not you being a bad person. It's not confirmation that you're not good enough or that you can't change. It is a human pattern that so many of us fall into. And that links us in nicely to think about, why am I sabotaging myself? Why is this happening to me? On the surface, it seems strange that we would be making choices or doing things that send us off course, that undermine our own happiness, our self-worth. Sometimes we're doing things that is disrespectful towards ourselves and completely against what we value. However, when you look at how the subconscious mind works, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Your subconscious mind, the primary purpose is to keep you safe from anything that feels scary, from things that feel uncertain, from something that is going to lead you to believe that you're not worthy or is going to sting or hurt you in any way. We are primed to be safe from those things. Something that you hold negative beliefs around, we're primed to try and feel good enough, to try and feel balanced, to try and feel safe. So if your dream life feels risky or too far from what you believe about yourself or your capabilities, if it feels too far from what's possible for you, like you feel like something is impossible or it doesn't happen for you, or you're going to look a certain way, to fail, then your mind and your subconscious mind gets in the driver's seat and pulls you back towards what feels familiar, even if familiar is the thing holding you back, even if familiar is what makes you miserable, even if familiar is anxiety provoking and hurtful and painful. If familiar even doesn't make you feel alive or whole or calm or content, that doesn't matter. You will sabotage yourself to feel what is familiar. In other words, self-sabotage correlates with the deep held beliefs that you hold about yourself, about love, about relationships, about your capabilities, about other people, about the world. And understanding that is so important when it comes to breaking free. When researching this episode, I really wanted to share some different ideas about why we self-sabotage, some different explanations for how or why it happens, really. I'm going to do another episode on really common examples that you might like, that I'll release really soon. If you're listening to this way in the future, it is probably 1 or 2 episodes after this. But today, just why? Because I think that's what we ask ourselves is, why am I doing this? There are different perspectives on why we do this. Self-sabotage is not a one size fits all. It depends on the lens you use. You might look at it from a psychological, relational, behavioral perspective, and you're going to see a different piece of the puzzle. I'm going to share four perspectives that I feel really summarize and help explain why you might be undermining your success, your dreams, where you want to get to. But as I say often, please don't judge yourself for this. Please just see this with an open heart of recognizing this means I can change. Understanding this means that I can change. One perspective is to think about your brain when it comes to things like stress or being under pressure or trauma. Those things will have an impact on your brain, especially parts of your brain that are related to impulse control and decision making and how you're able to manage your emotions. And if they're not online or they're not switched on or working smoothly, it can be harder in that moment to think clearly, to pause, to consider long-term consequences, to remember your abilities to solve problems or how to solve problems, to think about your emotions and what's best for you. And so someone might suddenly quit something, might end up doom scrolling instead of doing the thing that needs to be done, procrastinate like crazy, or just fall into unhelpful habits without really choosing to. In a lot of cases, self-sabotage happens in a way that feels automatic because the brain is trying to get quick relief or avoid discomfort. And that's really difficult when it doesn't line up with your goals. Another perspective I want to share, and is so relevant to many of you listening to this, is that self sabotage can often trace back to unmet needs, especially from your early life experiences, but not only from your early life. If your needs for safety, connection, validation, attachment were consistently not met, or they were inconsistent, it, of course, we know it can create patterns that follow us into adulthood. Your brain and body learn certain patterns to cope. And those patterns don't just disappear when you step into adulthood. They show up in obvious or subtle ways. Let me give an example that may relate to some of you. If you rarely felt seen or supported, you could grow into someone who doubts their worth, overthinks everything, or feels uncomfortable when things are going too well. If you learned that love or attention only came with conditions, you might sabotage healthy relationships because they, as I was saying before, they feel unfamiliar. They feel too good to be true. And if you grew up in an unpredictable environment, you might struggle to relax or trust yourself, leading to procrastination, avoidance, or shutting down emotionally. These behaviors aren't about being lazy or dramatic. You had needs, and if they went unmet, you would have learned ways to cope. You would have learned protective habits for your younger self to survive. They just don't always fit into your life now. And understanding where they came from can be really useful. Next is really interesting. I think you might not be surprised by one of them and you might be surprised by the other. I've grouped them together, but it is the fear of success and the fear of failure. Which of those would you have expected to be a reason that people self-sabotage? The fear of failure or the fear of success? A lot of people are surprised at the fear of success, the fear of things going well can be a reason to self-sabotage. It might seem paradoxical, but self-sabotage can stem from both those extremes. Fear of failure, like I say, is more obvious. The thought of making a mistake, being judged, falling short, that can be paralyzing for people. To avoid failure, someone might procrastinate or spend all of their time preparing or avoid opportunities altogether. Depends what way you go. But Both can be a form of self-sabotage. And the fear of success is subtler, but equally is important to know that some people will fall into these patterns and sabotage themselves of this unconscious fear of success. Achieving your goals, it can be pressure. It can be a fear of, I'm not going to be good enough to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that. It can trigger some kind of anxiety about how other people might view you if you were to succeed in certain areas. What would that mean? Would I have to leave people behind? Would someone not like me? Would they judge me? It really is an important and interesting concept to think about, the fear of success being a reason why we might sabotage ourselves. Both fears can coexist. That means that both of them can influence our choices. It might seem irrational, but it's definitely worth thinking about. And the next perspective, probably the one I work with the most, I would say, is low self-esteem, negative core beliefs, and other unconscious beliefs. Again, I've grouped them together. This perspective is about focusing on internal stories, internal narratives, low self-esteem, catastrophizing, having deeply held beliefs like I don't deserve this, or this things never work out for me, I always mess things up, can directly drive self-sabotaging behavior. And it goes beyond just self-worth. Many people can carry unconscious beliefs about the world, about money, about success, as I've said, and that shapes your decisions. Believing, this is a really common one, believing that rich people are bad or that money is corrupting, thinking that successful people are selfish, or I'm not good enough for this, or everyone leaves. These deep rooted beliefs about ourselves and others will drive self sabotage if we do not work on them. When you truly believe these things, your subconscious aligns your behaviors with them. Yeah. So if you're really believing these things, even though part of you is like, I want this change, your subconscious, so consciously, that the front of your brain is saying, yes, I want these things. But subconsciously at the back, something is getting in the driver's seat and pulling you away from what it is that you actively know that you do want. And so you're avoiding promotions, you're delaying important decisions, you're not asking like vulnerable questions to the person that you like, you're not going on dates, you're ending relationships too soon or staying in them for too long, all to stay consistent with these underlying beliefs. And do you know that for some of you, and this is probably who I work with an awful lot, is those of you where actually you're not staying in things too long, you're not ending things, you are in a good place. Life is good for you right now, but you're struggling to feel it. You're struggling to enjoy it. You're struggling to live in the moment. And that's how you sabotage: worrying, catastrophizing, ruminating, overthinking, and not just living in the now, not enjoying what you have. That's how you sabotage. Addressing self-sabotage from this lens involves uncovering and challenging these hidden assumptions and gradually retraining yourself and your mind to allow happiness, to allow abundance, to allow fulfillment, to allow success. And that is what I absolutely love to support people with, is to quit doing the same things over and over again so that you can move from your old self to your new self. And may I just take the opportunity to say, if you relate to that, this is your invite to book the 90-minute clarity call with me, and we can make a difference. And you get unique, personalized resources from me to support you beyond the 90 minutes. Okay, I hope that has been useful so far. I'm hoping it's not been too overwhelming. I know that some of it can be quite repetitive. You might have questions. I'm trying my best to do a Q&A, put up a Q&A box on Instagram on Mondays and answer them on Tuesdays for you. So if you have questions about this, use whatever platform you find easier. Come and speak to me on Instagram. Comment. You can even comment on Spotify now. Comment on YouTube, wherever it is that you listen to this. Find out the best way to have a conversation with me and let me know what questions you have or what you want me to do another video on. I would love that kind of information. But for now, we are going to go through a simple exercise to help you to create change in your life and to stop the self-sabotaging. So, the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down what you want. I want you to list 3 to 5 things that you say you want in your life right now. And be bold, be brave, get it on paper that you want for yourself. What do you desire for your future? Really get in touch with that future self and write it down. And now I want you to write down what you've actually been doing, what behaviors you're doing or not doing that is keeping you still, keeping you stuck where you are, or moving you away from your goals and desires. For each goal, note any choices, habits, or reactions that could be self sabotage and moving you away from what's important to you. For example, you're wanting a healthy relationship, but you're pulling away or picking fights when things get too good. You're wanting a better job for yourself, but you're procrastinating, you're putting things off, and you're not taking the action. The next step is to spot the mismatch. Notice where your actions are not lining up with what you say you want. Notice it, acknowledge it without judgment, but notice it. Really be like, wow, yeah, that is happening. And next, I want you to flip it. I want you to think of one small action, small is fine, tiny is fine, that moves you towards the life you desire. It moves you towards what's important to you rather than keeps you still or moves you away. For each pattern of self-sabotage that you've identified, write down one thing you could do differently to move closer to your goal. If that feels too much, just write down one thing, one shift that you feel able to put into practice. Instead of pulling away from your partner, you might schedule a heart-to-heart conversation. Instead of procrastinating on job application, you might commit to submitting something today, whether it is good or not. Make it something that feels doable. This is how you break the cycle. Taking action is going to break the cycle. Over the coming weeks, really do look for repetitive cycles. Any behaviors that show up again and again, that's a likely way you're self-sabotaging. And if they're moving me away from what I desire, am I self-sabotaging? That'll be a great question to ask yourself. Depending on where you are listening to this, please follow or subscribe. Think of me as an example. Today, I have mentioned the 90-minute clarity call. I've just asked you to subscribe to this channel. I know what my desires are. I want to work with people and reach people that need the skills that I have so that they can stop self-sabotaging. And I would be sabotaging myself not to take that risk and put myself out there and give you that call to action. And so here I am, not self-sabotaging. So please help me grow this podcast and our community even further by subscribing. I hope you have found this useful, and I will be back right here soon.